Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was told today's verse is text 41. Is that correct? Yes. Is it on the board? Or almost on the board? Well, let's try it. Yena swa damni ami bhava rajaha sattva tamo mayaha guna nama kriya rupa vibhavyante yata. Raise your hand if you have memorized this verse. Have you heard Prabhupada quote? Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. He quotes that often, right? And also, yeah, the first line also. Natasya Karyam Karanam Cha Vidyate. Which means Krishna has nothing to do. And manipulate the entire cosmic manifestation through the interaction of the three modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. These interactions create different forms, bodies, activities, and changes, which all occur. Would you work? Would you look for a job? Would you go to the best university to get a good job? I don't think so. Would you? We do that because we're not God, right? So we look for education, get a job, etc. Because we're not God. If I could say, not even God, some mystic, with some siddhi, then you wouldn't have to do that. Because they're voluntary. Our leaders first. We don't live, right? Don't get prasadam. You can't manifest it. You have to work. And so this verse from the Svetasvatara Upanishad says, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. He doesn't have to work. And if he works, it's because he wants to. Okay? I like working. I like my job. I want to create this company, right? I don't have to. I have enough money. I do it because I want to. That's Krishna. And so how does he do it? Well, he has shaktis. Bala Shakti, Kriya Shakti. So if Krishna wants to do something, he just arranges the Shakti to do it. That's why in the Gita he says, everything's going on with a fragment of my Shakti. We can't imagine. Hardly we can find time to do our laundry, right? Just keeping our life together. Isn't it? Make money, keep your house clean, do your laundry. That's about it. Chant your rounds and that's hard enough, right? But Krishna has Bala, Kriya, Shaktis. So they're just he thinks it and then it happens, right? Let's create a universe. Okay, done, finished, like that. So that's Krishna. And we can't do that. We're trying to do it through technology. We'll get that app that reads your mind. So you just think you want to write a letter, think it, and Word writes it out for you, right? That's about as close. You think in your mind, light, go on, and the light will go on. You think in your mind, computer, turn on, and it'll turn on. That's about as good as we're going to get, right? We'll have some technology that can read our mind and turn switches on. That's about it, right? So, Yeah, yeah. And then this verse says nobody's sama, equal to Krishna. Natat samas jabhyadikas drishyate. Never drishyate. We've never seen anyone equal to Krishna. We'll just speak of greater, not even equal, right? There's no competition. So, yeah. Yeah, so now Prabhupada makes a really interesting point here. He says, because the Lord is perfect, everything works as if he were directly supervising and taking part in it. So you don't see Krishna, but every day the sun rises and sets. And every day there's air. Have you ever woken up one day and there's like no air? Like Krishna forgot, oh, I slept in this morning, I forgot to turn on the switch for oxygen, It doesn't happen. Oh my God, the sun, my sun servant, Vivishwan, he's like sleeping on the job, as the sun is late, it's dark till 9 o'clock. No, it doesn't happen like that. So, the point Prabhupada makes is, it happens so perfectly that atheists think there must not be a God, because everything is just going on. So if everything's just going on, there must be no God. You don't need a God because it's going on. Because you don't see God. Because he's so good. By his energy, everything happens. Isn't that interesting? For us, we say, no, that's proof that God exists, that everything's going on. How could it go on if there was no God? But for the atheist, it's proof there is no God because it's all going on. And they don't see him. Yes? Everything, it's just working. Like, where's your God? Everything's just going on by nature. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shuyate. But it's going on by his energy, but they don't see him, so they think they don't need him, and they're trying to become him. Manipulate material energy. Sometimes Prabhupada's a little sarcastic. Have you noticed that? So he made a sarcastic statement in the Gita. He said, the scientists are trying to prolong life. He said, but in the process of trying to prolong life, they're dying while they're doing their research, but they're dying. So just like this hypocrisy. And Prabhupada's saying, don't you see what's happening? Don't you have eyes? You're talking about we're going to make life eternal or we're going to live longer, and you're dying while you're talking about it. And, you're not God. Sorry for the bad news. This is the bad news for today's class is you're not God. Sorry to be the one to tell you. Someone had to tell you, right? Yeah. Yeah. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something that I love. He said, for a theist, he sees God everywhere. And for an atheist, he sees God nowhere. And I think that succinctly and perfectly describes the difference between theism and atheism. It's obvious to the theist is not obvious to the atheist. And what seems obvious to the atheist, that there is no God, is not obvious to the theist. So, show me God, I want to see God. Hello, he's everywhere. There's a problem with your, maybe you need glasses or something. He's everywhere and you can't see him. Maybe the problem is with you. Not that God doesn't exist, but you don't have the eyes to see him. How can you not see something that's everywhere? The classic example. Well, if God existed, he would show himself. So the theist sees God everywhere. How do we see him everywhere? We see Krishna's intelligence everywhere. Yes? It's like obvious. You study biology. You just study different animals and how they function. It's incredible. The intelligence and ingenuity and skills that animals have, isn't it? They never went to IIT or anything, and they're engineers. They're constructing homes. They're taking care of their kids. They never had classes on child raising and marriage counseling or anything. And they're doing it all, right? It's amazing. So we as devotees, we see, oh, this is super soul giving all these animals intelligence. Lord Brahma designed it. It's all extremely complicated. One cell is complicated, more complicated than New York City. And so we see Krishna everywhere, in everything. And they say if God existed, he would show himself. So we give this example to a person like that. And we say, but he's showing himself. These are symptoms of a intelligence. These are symptoms that someone is overseeing. No. It's just nature. It's like they say that. I need to see God. If I don't see him, I don't believe him. My dear sir, do you have intelligence? That would sound offensive. Not meant to be offensive. Do you have intelligence? So why are you asking? Say, because if you have intelligence, I can believe it if you show it to me. And how do you show someone your intelligence? Do you take it out? Oh, here it is. Here, can you see it? Even if you could do that, nobody could see it. It's subtle, shukshma. And you can't see it. You can't see the mind. They think the brain is the mind. The brain and the mind are different. You can't see the mind. So, my dear sir, it appears you have no intelligence because you can't show it to me. I say, no, but you can see the way I'm acting. I'm intelligent. That's my intelligence. Oh, yeah, I can see that. But you just said you don't believe in God because you need to see him. You can't see his intelligence at work. So that's true. You have no intelligence because you can't show it to me. Stupid argument, right? Yes? Sahihe? So, the theist sees God everywhere and the atheist sees God nowhere. Wow, perfect statement, isn't it? As Krishna says, atheistic men, however, being covered by the three modes of material nature, cannot see Narayan to be the supreme cause behind all activities. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 13, Tribir Gunamaya Bhavar, Ebi Sarvam Idam Jagat, Mohitam Nabijananti Mam Ebya Param Abhyayam. Deluded by the three modes of material nature. The whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. If you don't want to know God, you can stay in the material world forever and you'll never know him. Because he knows how to play hide and seek and win. You'll never find him. Right? And the funniest thing, the best hiding place for Krishna, for the atheists, is in their heart, because they'll never find him in their heart. Right? You know that story when Krishna was trying to hide. Who was he trying to hide from? What's that story? He's trying to hide, maybe Kalyavana or someone, or Kamsa or something, and he said, I'll just go in his heart. He'll never be able to find me there. So Krishna knows how to play hide and seek better than anyone. He just goes in the atheist's heart, and then they think there's no God. And God's sitting right inside them, and they can't find him. Isn't that interesting? Have you ever been like walking around looking for the cartels and you're holding them in your hand? You know, but you do it with glasses or keys. Where are my keys? I can't find my keys. You're looking everywhere and you're like, oh, they're in my hand or in my pocket. So it's like Krishna's right in your hand and you can't see him. So, and Krishna, he wants to reveal himself. That's the paradox. He's like so much wants to reveal himself to us, but if you don't want to see him, it's like, okay, if you don't want to see me, I can hide from you so well that in 1,000,000 lifetimes you're never going to find me. You won't even believe me to even start the search. In fact, if you don't want to believe me, I'm going to help you philosophize me out of existence. So you will come up with arguments, beautiful, beautiful arguments to prove that there's no God. You'll come up with philosophical, logical, scientific, some, excellent, so-called excellent scientific proofs that God doesn't exist, some logical proofs, which are not logical, some philosophical, which are bogus philosophy. So there was once a debate between a priest or a pastor, Christian pastor, and an atheist. And the atheist was making these beautiful, logical, so-called logical, philosophical arguments, like Mahaprabhu used to do, right? He'd make these beautiful, wrong, philosophical arguments that sounded right, but they were so genius, he would make them sound right. You know? So this atheist was presenting these beautiful arguments, like really, really subtle philosophy and logic and like that. And the priest said, wow, those arguments were amazing. Nobody could come up with arguments like that. This definitely proves to me that God is giving you the intelligence to come up with these arguments, and the more arguments you give, the more I see God coming through you, and the more I believe in God. Hare Krishna. Interesting, huh? So, what does Krishna say in the Gita? Of gambling, I'm cheats. So, I wouldn't try to cheat Krishna. I think it's a bad idea because I would lose. So, you want to not believe in Krishna, he'll cheat you in such a way, he'll give you every argument that possibly could be created to prove that he doesn't exist, and he's the person you're trying to prove doesn't exist is the person who gave the arguments to prove that he doesn't exist. That's pretty cheaty, isn't it? You got to be a big cheater to do that, right? Like if I'm doing a deal with you, some business deal, and if I can get you to say what I want you to say, and you don't even realize you're saying it, that's pretty good, right? Yeah. Because unintelligent agnostics are mohita, illusioned by the three modes of material nature, they cannot understand that Narayan, Krishna, is the supreme cause of all activities. It's stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadiradi Govindam, Sarvakarana Karanam, Chintamani Pakarashadman Sukalpa Vriksha, Lakshavriteshu Shurabhira Vipaliyantam, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasambhrama Sevyamanam, Govindamari Purusham Ambajani, Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhaja. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. Has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. So the classic stupid question that atheist or agnostic asks is, who created God? Well, if God exists, who created him? And they think they're so smart that they defeated you with that stupid question, isn't it? Right? What a stupid question. If someone created God, then the person who is created is not God, by definition, because God is the creator of everything. So, thanks for the stupid question. Now, because we live in relative time, for us, everything only makes sense if it has a beginning and an end. So if you talk about no beginning, your mind freaks out, doesn't it? If I say, think about Krishna and Radha and the gopis and Yashoda and the residents of Braja and the spiritual world, And there was never a time it didn't exist. And the mind thinks, but it has to have a time when it was created, right? Because in this world, nothing exists forever. It has a beginning and an end. So our mind the comfort zone of our mind is something's created. It just, when you say, Krishna always existed, you always existed. There was never a time when you did not exist. But how did I come to be? No, you already were. And then the mind's like, already were forever? It doesn't make sense, right? The mind's trying to make sense. It needs no, but when did we start? Isn't it? The mind always goes, when did we start? No, you didn't. You're always, but I couldn't always be here. I must have started sometime. No, you're always here, like forever. And forever is a long time, isn't it? How long is forever? Okay, everyone. We're going to stop class for 10 seconds, and I want you to meditate on how long forever is. So just think about forever for 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's a pretty long time forever, isn't it? Did you get an idea how long it is? Did your mind freak out a little bit? Trying to, yeah, right, exactly. So, where did God come from? Who created God? That means you have no idea what God is. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vega Anadi Adir Govindam. No beginning, but the beginning of everything. Sarva Karana Karanam. Prabhupada initiated a devotee named Sarva Karana Karanam. Yeah. Yesterday I was giving class, or the other day, and I was saying that when we read these verses that describe the nature of Krishna, his supreme nature, you might think that it's like you hear it so often, like it's everywhere, all over the Gita, all over Bhagavatam, all over everything. I'm a servant, he's God. He's the source of everything. He's this, he's that. And it's like, okay, I understand, tell me something else, everywhere. Here, Brahma Samhita, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Bhagavad Gita, I'm the source of everything. Krishna, it's like here we're in the Bhagavatam, source of everything. I know, you don't have to tell me. I heard it, like a little kid, Okay, you've told me. Don't. Why do we have to keep hearing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God all the time? Because sometimes we forget, and you'll say, no, I don't forget. How can I forget that Krishna is God? No, we do. Because we think we're God sometimes, right? So it's like, Prabhu, just in case you forget, I just want to remind you that you're not God. Okay, it's like, you can't control everything. I know you were trying to control something today. Like when you saw all the traffic, you were screaming and yelling and honking and, and after honking for 3 hours, you actually progressed 14 meters, And you couldn't control the traffic, right? Because there was an accident and the truck turned over and it was rush hour and like that. You ever been in that situation where you can't control anything and you would like to control everything? You ever been there, done that? Yes? That is a moment when you forgot that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you're not. Because if you were the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you could just fly over the traffic, right? But you're not. So we're thinking, okay, I know Krishna is God. Okay, that's true. But we don't know fully we're not God. And so we're always hearing, Krishna's God, Supreme Controller, cause of all causes. Because I think I can control more than I can control. Right? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, you have any questions? or comments on this verse? Yes. Difficult to have the vision to see God everywhere. You're asking how to do that? How to see Him everywhere? Well, I'll ask you a question. When you see everything and you don't see Krishna everywhere, what do you see? What are you seeing? In other words, I could see Krishna in everything, right? I could. And of course a pure devotee does. But if I'm not seeing Krishna in everything, then when I look at everything, what am I seeing? What's going on in my mind? I'll give you a hint. If I'm seeing Krishna everywhere, then what am I seeing? Everything belongs to Krishna, right? I see you and I think you belong to Krishna. She belongs to Krishna, he belongs to Krishna, the flowers belong to Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. So when I see that everything belongs to Krishna, the only thing I can do is think, well, how can I serve this? How can I serve you? How can I engage the flowers in service to Krishna? That's my hint. So when you don't see that way, how do you see? Who does it belong to? Me, right. So when we say, how to see Krishna everywhere, it's simply by seeing that He owns everything and everything is meant for His service. And when I don't see that way, then I think, me, I could get this. Or if I can't get it, I'd like to get it. Or how could I get it? Or when can I get it? Or who can get it for me? Or how nice it would be to have it. Like, you ever see a beautiful house that you could never afford and you might think, well, it'd be nice to have a house like that. Instead of, that would be a nice house to have a center for Krishna. Right? That's a beautiful house. We could have a center, like a base center there. Instead of, wow, I wish I had a house like that. So that's how you see Krishna everywhere. And it's very easy to see Him everywhere. As I said, He is everywhere. So, oh, it's so hard to see Krishna everywhere. No, it's so hard not to see Him everywhere. How could it be hard to see Him everywhere if He is everywhere? Right? It's hard to not see Him. I mean, that's how we should think. Yes? Is that okay? Yeah.
Maharaj, you mentioned that although we know that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead and we are not God, but sometimes we think we are God. We are stuck in traffic and we feel. So I think you are trying to mention that we trying to have the sense of controllership, that I am controller. Okay. So I understand that at least if I introspect, this is the thing which is I have. So how do I come out of this sense of controllership, especially when I deal with the family members? I see that the things are not going to according to the way I want them. Yeah. And I just get pissed off for those things. Yeah.
There's a couple things you could do. One of the meanings of Maha Mantra is, Krishna, help me realize I'm a servant. So that's part of what we're praying for every morning when we're chanting, or at least what we should be praying for. Krishna, help me realize that I can't imitate you. Help me realize that I'm dependent on you. Help me realize that I cannot control what I cannot control. That's what we're praying for. That's what it means to be a servant, right? There's a paradox in our life, and the paradox is that I want this, but my conditioning wants this. So I'm like two people, right? And so with Japa, we're praying that this becomes this. The conditioning that I don't want to serve Krishna and I want to imitate Him, we're praying that it becomes, I'm your servant. So here's the truth. of what we want to be. But here's the reality of where we are today. And so when we're chanting, say, Krishna, can I want what I want rather than want what I don't want? If you understand what I'm saying. Like, due to conditioning, I want this, but I don't want it. But I do. You ever want something you don't want? It doesn't make any sense, does it? But that's our conditioning. So I'm accustomed to wanting something that now I know I don't want. So I'm praying to Krishna, please help me want what I want and not want what I want. Now, please help me want what I want on this side and not want what I want on this side. So, every day you can pray for that. That I pray that what I know in my head, I will know in my heart. I will feel it. Because what we know in our head, we don't always feel in our heart, right? I know this, but I feel this. And if I feel this, I'm probably going to do this. Krishna, please help me feel what I know. I know you're God and I'm not, and I'm your humble servant. Please help me feel that. That's a challenge we have. When we understand something, then it's like, okay, it's here. But if it's not here, then what is here? Whatever's here, that's what I'm going to do. Whatever's here, most people don't do. Most people do what's here, what's deep in their heart. So that conditioning that's in our heart, that's the problem. And so purification means that what I know, I start to feel and I desire and I want to do it. And I pray to Krishna, please, whatever I know to be true, allow me to desire that, to feel it, to want it, to make it my life. And then we're no longer schizophrenic. Because right now, in our conditioned state, we have a case of spiritual schizophrenia, right? We want this, but our conditioned side wants this. So it's like, well, what do you want? Or like you're like two people in one body, right? And so the pure state is we're one person in one body. It's only bhakti. And if you're a materialist, you're not schizophrenic because you only want Maya, right? So you come to Krishna consciousness wanting Maya and wanting Krishna also, and then learning what you should want, but still remaining attached. And so you want to get out of that schizophrenia through prayer. And that's what we do when we chant Japa every day, or we're supposed to do. So if you're just chanting Japa and I ask you, we come in here at 5:30 in the morning and I have a microphone and a camera and you're all chanting Japa and I say, what's going on in your heart right now? Like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are you praying for? It's an interesting question, isn't it? We'll probably get all kinds of answers, right? From I'm praying for pure bhakti to I'm praying for nothing. I'm just trying to get my rounds done, So you don't want to be on that end of the spectrum where I'm just chanting, but you want to be at the end of the spectrum where I'm praying to become pure. I'm praying to overcome my anartha. So that's one thing, which is a big thing, of course. And the other thing is, we just have to be a little smart to acknowledge when we can't control something, that we actually can't control it and just accept it. You ever been in a situation where something is obviously going in a way you don't want it to go and you can't accept it, and there's nothing you can do to change it, but all you're doing is trying to change it? You ever been in that situation? You cannot accept it's going this way, and you do everything in your power to change something that you have 100% no power to change. So it's really a question of just looking at how stupid that is. I'm stuck in traffic, it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do right now. It's just like, this is reality. So it's the process of accepting a reality. And so when we're fighting against reality, that's when we have that problem. We can't accept it. That goes back to this idea that I'm not the supreme controller. Because every time we're fighting reality, we're trying to control what we can't control. We're not, and that's Krishna consciousness means I have to accept what I can control and what I can't control. That's what detachment means, doesn't it? I mean, what does detachment mean if you're not, unless you're letting go of what you can't control, or letting go of what's not worth controlling. Sometimes you can control something, let that go also, if it's not good for you. So, many, many lectures that I've given to people who are new to bhakti, who are on a spiritual path, is about letting go of control. Because as conditioned souls, every one of us has a really difficult time letting go of control. And spiritual life fundamentally means letting God control and not trying to control what I can't control. And I think many devotees and many people in general on the spiritual path have a really hard time with this. Right? And sometimes don't isolate how important it is to be detached from what we can't control. And that being a fundamental principle of spiritual life. Can you control your wife if you have one? You're married? You ever try to control your wife? How did that go for you? She ever try to control you? How did that go for her? Yeah, probably worse. Today, before we left, Sureshwar's daughter-in-law was trying to give her son some medicine, and her son wouldn't take it. He was like this. She would take it, you know. So I'm watching her trying to give him medicine, and she just gave up. He wouldn't take it, you know. So it's like that, you know. We're trying to control what we can't control, and at some point we just have to say, okay, I have to let go. And because the propensity to control is so strong, it's really hard to let go of control, isn't it? It's really difficult, you know. When you're married, you notice that your spouse is so different from you. Even your brothers and sisters are different from you, and you grew up in the same house with the same parents. It's like, so you know, you want someone exactly like you. You think they're out there. Everyone's an individual, right? And so, oh, I wish she were like that. I wish he were like that. Well, he isn't, or she isn't. So now what do I do? Well, I could get a divorce and search for one who is, but there isn't one who's going to be exactly thinking and feeling everything you think and feel, right? And so, I think in Grihastha ashram, acceptance is essentially important, because so much conflict is, I wish you were like this. Why can't you be like his wife? You know, like, you know, you want to make your wife feel bad. That's a good one. You just accept. This is what I got. You know, this is just it just is. It's not going to be any different. You know, and so I'll tell you a funny story. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's a beautiful story. Would you like to hear this story? It's about detachment and acceptance, and how when you accept, you become calm. That's the moment you accept, you become calm. So, in 1970, I was asked to be a temple president, and I'd only been a devotee for, at that point, 11 months. And I was 20 years old. This was a small temple, and it was in Canada, and Canada's cold, and I'd never seen snow, and so it was like, this is far away from any temple where there's a lot of devotees. There were only 3 devotees plus myself. It was really, really difficult. We didn't have enough money. We always had to struggle to pay the rent. And often we didn't know where the money for the rent was going to come. Often, sometimes we didn't even know where the money was going to come for breakfast, or where the money was going to come to get warm clothes, because it's like 0 in the winter. And the devotees in that temple were kind of heavy, like I don't know, figure the heaviest 3 guys you ever seen in a Bollywood movie. Well, they were all brahmacharis in that temple. You know, it was just like I had to deal with them. It was hard, right? And I am not from Canada. And to stay in Canada, continuously, you need some kind of visa, green card, I think they called it, And so the GBC said, you should apply to get a green card. And I didn't want to stay in the temple because I was so stressed out. It was really hard for me. And when he said, you need to get a green card to stay, I thought, well, this is a good idea because they're never going to give me a green card because I don't have a job, I don't have money. The temple president of a Hare Krishna temple is not the criteria. And at the same time, a lot of young American boys were moving to Canada because there was a war in Vietnam in 1970. And if you were an American boy, there's a good chance you're going to be drafted into that war. There's a good chance you're going to be killed or kill. You'd have to be killed or kill. But if you could get into Canada, you wouldn't be drafted. So all these young people were going to Canada to escape the draft. So I went to my immigration lawyer who was helping me fill out all the paperwork, and he said, I don't think you're going to get your green card because so many American boys are coming here. They're just, they can't give out all these green cards. And I said, okay. And in my mind I was thinking, that's really good news. Because what I want to happen is, I don't want to leave that temple, like run off the battlefield. I don't want to say, I can't do this service. I want to have a valid reason to give up the service, which is, you didn't get a green card. So I call my GBC and say, I didn't get a green card. And he's like, okay, so come back to the temple that I came from, which was like a big temple. So I was happy. And so I was just going through all the motions, filling out the paperwork and getting recommendations from people who know me, and all the time thinking, in a few weeks I'm going to go to immigration, they're going to say no, and they'll say you have to leave the country in a week, and I'll just tell all the devotees, I'll play like, devotees, I really have some sad news for you, but I didn't get the green card, and I'm going to have to go, and it's just like separation. And I was thinking, that's what's going to happen. Guess what happened? I got the green card. And I got it in about 4 minutes. And when he came out after 4 minutes, I thought he looked at like part of the application and didn't even read the whole thing, and he just said, this guy's a total loser. We're not going to let him come. And he comes, I think the guy was drunk or something. It was very strange. He just said, yeah, you're through, here's your card. Like 4 minutes. And then I was like, okay, Krishna, I guess you want me here. And it was so obvious Krishna wanted me here that I just relaxed. I was like, okay, you want me here, then I'm okay with it. So it was an experience of trying to control a situation and coming to the point where you realize you can't control it, and then you just calm down when you stop trying to control, right? So the good news is it got better. I stayed, and then all those 3 devotees, the Hell's Angel type guy, motorcycle, whatever they were, they all went to other temples, and all these new devotees came, really sweet, nice devotees. So it was quite nice. And I had a good time. But I was always thinking of leaving until that one day. And it was like, okay, Krishna, I guess you want it. So then I was okay. So that's how it works. So your wife is okay. Your mother-in-law is okay. Everybody's okay, right? You don't have to control anybody. Only person you have to control is the man in the mirror. That's the one to work on, right? Other people, you don't have to worry about them, right? Hare Krishna. Of course, we know the man in the mirror is the last person we try to control. It's everyone else. It's more fun and easier to control other people, isn't it? It's like not so much fun to control yourself. At least it's harder. Seems harder. Finished? Anything else?
Hare Krishna, Guru. Could you please help us by giving some tips to improve our chanting?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what I said last night. The devotees seem to appreciate it. Not many devotees know, I don't think know, that Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also Prabhupada in places, said that if you chant Namaparad, you're just making a sound, but Krishna's not present. You know, it's like a counterfeit mantra. It's a blank bullet. And Bhaktisiddhanta gave the example that if you have homeopathic, those little sugar pills, homeopathic, it's not the sugar pill, it's what's on the sugar pill, that little medicine, right? Or if you have a capsule, it's what's inside the capsule, not the capsule. You can take capsules with nothing in it. That's not medicine. The medicine's inside. So he said, in the same way, the capsule is the sound, Hare Krishna, but the medicine inside is the devotion with which you chant. Krishna, I want to serve you. And so he's making the point that not all chanting is the same, because it may seem like I'm chanting and I'm not. I'm just making a sound. And we've all done that. Yeah. And we know the result of that is that we don't really feel very inspired. But when we chant in devotion, we feel inspired. So I was thinking of this example. Last night we calculated that if you chant Japa for 50 years, you'll chant, I think we came up with almost 3 lakh rounds of Japa. 3 lakh, something like that. In your life, you'll chant 300,000 rounds. Not names, rounds, right? And Bhagavatam says that life is a preparation for death. So that if we're Krishna conscious in our life, we'll be Krishna conscious in death. So I equated the chanting of Japa to a bank account, which we can access when we're older. Because I was telling devotees, just stay in Krishna consciousness. Because when you're older, you'll have done so much service, you can access your advancement, right? So here's the analogy. If you, whatever number of rounds you're chanting every day, imagine you're depositing those rounds into a spiritual bank account. And then in the last days of your life, you go to the bank to access the bank account. And so you've lived 50 years, you've calculated, you have $300,000, well, if rupees is not much, dollars of rounds. We'll use dollars, right? You have $300,000 of rounds, right? So you go to the bank, you say, I want to take out the 300,000, and they look at your bank book and they say, you only have like $600. And you say, no, I deposited 300,000. And they say, well, look, let me check. And they say, and they come back to you and they say, well, that other 299,400 were counterfeit. So you only had 600 real rounds, the rest were counterfeit. So here's your 600 rounds, and hope you make it back to Godhead with those 600, good rounds. The rest were counterfeit. So, what do you think? My dear devotees, you don't want to die with a bank account of counterfeit rounds, right? So, I don't have to tell you what a counterfeit round is, because you all know it. Yes? And unfortunately, some of us have perfected counterfeit rounds. Like, we make this bill and it almost looks exactly like the real thing. I mean, it sounds like it. It looks like I'm chanting and everything. But what's in the bill? Like nothing. No bhakti, nothing, just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I have this little skit I like to do just to help you understand. If you're chanting, sometime do this little experiment. Listen to yourself chanting, however you're chanting. Specifically, listen to the mood and the tone. And imagine you are speaking in English. Krishna, please, I want to serve you, I want to love you. And imagine that same tone, how that would sound in English or your language, whatever language. And sometimes it would sound like this. Krishna, I want to love you. Krishna, I want to love you. Ah, Krishna, I want to serve you, love you, serve you. Right? Yes? So imagine, guys, okay, I'm going to translate, we're going to go from bad japa into, I'm going to propose to a woman in the same way I chant bad japa. You want to get married? It could work out, What do you think? And she's looking at you like, are you crazy? So you're chanting japa, and Krishna's looking at you like, what is wrong with this devotee? Like, doesn't he know what he's doing? Krishna, I want to serve you. Oh, Krishna, I want to serve you. Do I have to serve you, really? It's like, isn't it? So that's counterfeit japa. So all we have to do is real japa, which is Krishna, like I was saying, I'm over here and I want to be here. This is pure bhakti and I'm far from it. Hare Krishna, can you pull me over so that I am over here with what you want, not that I'm over here with what I want. And that's the mood of japa. And so if we do that, then you will die with 300,000 good rounds in your bank account. And that should be, like Prabhupada said, 16 rounds, 4 principles. Like, what's he saying? Get enough money in your account and you'll go back to Godhead. So everyone is thinking, 16 rounds, not 16 bad rounds. No, not 16 counterfeit rounds. Because then when you're trying to go back to Godhead, when you get to the gates, they're saying, but you only have 600 rounds in your bank account and you need 300,000 to get here. You don't want to be surprised at that late date, right? So take care of it now. Is that okay? Yes? Japa is a prayer. It's a connection. And so we go around the room and we're interviewing you and you say, what is going on in your heart right now while you're chanting? And what you should be going on in your heart is, Krishna, please help me become a pure devotee. Help me love you. Help me connect with you. That's what japa is. Everything else is not exactly. It's not the way and some of it is just offensive. Aparadha. All right, so we should care about our japa, but more fundamentally, we should care about ourselves enough to care about our japa, right? And just to help you with this, if you don't have our japa affirmation, then it's there. And we just came out in Hindi also with our japa affirmation book. It's up over here on the table. And that book was designed so that when you chant japa, you have the right mood in your heart to understand what that mood is. So that can help you. And we have a book on self-care so that you care about yourself enough that you would chant japa well. Because if you don't care, why would you chant? Prabhu, you might not go back to Godhead. How do you say it? Jobi? Whatever. You won't make it in this life. Jobi. You can't be a Jobi Bhakta. Jobi, is that it? What's your name? Jobi Bhakta. No, you have to be intentional. Sankalpa Bhakta, not Jobi Bhakta. Right? Yes? Good? Okay. We don't have any calendars left, do we? We had... Anyway, if you like to see some of the books, if you like today's class, there's more there. Oh, you have a question? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you said that for a mind, it is very comfortable to think that there is a beginning and end. And when you asked me to meditate, I actually realized that I do read Krishna is supreme, but when I meditate, it's actually really difficult to believe that he has not been created by
Yes,
anybody.
yeah.
So how to build that understanding that there is no end and there is no beginning for God?
Materially, you're not going to understand it because the mind is limited. So it's like I'll rephrase your question. I have a shoe that's this big, and I have a box that's this big. How do I fit the shoe in? And say, you don't. Your box is too small. You need to get a bigger box. So our mind is too small to fit in this idea because the mind wants beginning and end, right? That's the problem. So we just have to give up trying to understand it materially. Because, if you try to understand Krishna materially, how's that going to work? He's not material. If you try to understand the soul materially, how will you understand? It's not material. So, no, but I need to figure, I need to know beginning and end, but there isn't any. I can't make a beginning and end for you. It's not there. So it's kind of like, okay, I have to readjust my conceptions. I have to get a bigger box to fit that idea. And so, can you get a bigger box? Can you try to find a bigger box?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so you'll have to, part of that is just accepting on faith that this is something that I can't understand in my present state, but if I continue and meditate on this and continue my bhakti, I'll be able to understand. And sometimes the understanding is that I don't understand. That's all you can understand is you don't understand, which is better than not understanding that you don't understand. That's progress, right? In my present condition, I understand that I can't understand. So maybe that's as far as you can get today.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
All right.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. You came here after for this temple after a long time, and you gave your association. Actually, your Japa talks are our daily inspirational dose for our Japa. So with that, we keep on improving. I request all the devotees to please take a look at Prabhuji's literature here. They can pick up those. And yes, today's talk was very inspirational for us. So let us thank Mahatma Prabhu with a loud chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, we hope that we'll get longer association in the future.
Okay, you can pray for me to come back. Pray to the deities and they'll arrange everything. Right?